Yeah, that's right, we're back, and today I'm pretty excited because I'm going to bring you a video with a bit of a difference. Now, regular viewers will know a bit of a common thread through all of the videos is me coming a cropper and ending emotionally. And some of you have hit me up in the comments and just asked about baling technique and how to get better at it. And I couldn't for the life of me think about a way to put this video together, but I happened upon the idea of doing a reaction video to some of my bales and then talking through some of the strategies I've come up with to try and mitigate injuries and try and ride it out a bit better. Now, I wouldn't say I'm an expert baler, but I've certainly had a lot of practice. And I found that as my skateboarding has progressed, my risk of injury seems to have reduced quite significantly. So without further ado, let's crack into the first section, which is every skateboarder's worst nightmare, the hang-up. So there we are, a few hang-ups. I think as I've progressed, I've got a little bit better at making sure the wheels clear the coping, be it coming in from a rock to fakie or coming back in forwards. But to start with, it was a nightmare. It was just a bit of a lottery as to whether those wheels would clear the coping. And if they didn't, and I was committed to going back in, there was only one thing that was going to happen. That was straight to the flat bottom. I think to mitigate the injuries, I wore the pads and I got the elbow pads, which are really key for the hang-up. And I think my secret weapon are my impact shorts. I got the Burton Total Impact snowboard shorts under my shorts a lot of the time. And that just stops the old hip injuries. When I started out, I got a few hematomas, and I won't show you the photos because it's a family channel, but oh my goodness, every single colour under the sun from the old hematomas. And I decided, number one, I wasn't going to give up skateboarding, and number two, it was probably going to happen again. So I came up with a plan of trying to mitigate that injury. Okay, we're into the next section, and this is a classic, the looping off of the back. Okay, a few bits of looping off the back, and I found that this was something that happened to me quite a lot when I started skateboarding. It always felt a little safer to be in the back seat, away from the danger, and I quickly learned that it was not better to be in the back seat because the loop out was pretty unpleasant. And I managed to sustain a few nasty injuries just coming off the back. One of them was getting the leg bent up behind me arse. And I demonstrated that in one of the bales, but nowadays I've got a little bit more flexible. I have a regime of yoga and stretching, and also do a little bit of weight training just to try and strengthen all of the joints and the muscles and also increase my bone density. So I tried to mitigate all the risks of falling off. Okay, the next section is the opposite of looping out the back, and that's coming off the front. Let's have a look, here we go. Okay, I found I overcompensated for being in the back seat. I ended up spooning off the front. But I think out of the two, I prefer overcommitting and coming off the front every day of the week. Coming off the back seems to happen super fast in a surprising fashion, and legs and limbs can get caught up and get bent. Whereas I think coming off the front sort of spoon forwards, and it gives me a little bit of chance to arrange myself. And I found that as I've got used to bailing, I sort of go forwards in a sort of crumpling motion, try and let everything go soft and just crumple down one bit by one bit. I also wear the wrist guards, and I find that I can use the wrist guards just to dissipate energy. I think there's a popular misconception with wrist guards being there to stop you from breaking your wrists. But I just use the sliders on the wrist guards to slide out onto a stronger part of the body, which is the elbows and the elbow pads. And then those can slide out, and eventually I get my shoulder down, hopefully with not too much impact. Also find when coming out the front, there's a chance of a knee slide onto the knee pads, and also a chance of a safer run out without getting caught up on the board. Okay, next section is stepping back on the board. Oh my gosh. Okay, I think out of all the Bales we're going to look at, stepping back on the board is my least favourite of all. It always ends emotionally and it happens super quick, and I find there is no time for me to react and brace myself. Often ends up with a bang of the head because stepping back on the board causes that super fast loop out. And I've been really mindful of cultivating strategies to avoid stepping back on the board. One is to kick the board away whenever I'm going to bail, and the more aggressively the better, just get that board way away. I also tend to throw the board quite viciously when I'm on the vert ramp, just make sure it's as far away as possible so I can't slide or run back onto it. Okay, we're into the next section and it's the perilous world of vert ramps. I find riding the vert ramp the most scary out of all the skateboarding that I do. It's got the highest velocity impacts, and every time I come a cropper it feels like I've been in a car accident. Now it's always a bit disappointing to look back at the vert ramp footage because the ramp's so big, it looks really mellow and quite sort of relaxing. And also the video doesn't really pick up on the speed, and when I come a cropper it doesn't really pick up on the G-forces that are happening, but there's a couple of those slams, they really did take their toll. The first one where I was trying to drop in on vert for the first time doesn't really show up, but I actually banged my knee and also banged my head at the same time, and I didn't realise that I'd really hurt my knee because I was trying to come round from a bit of a banged head. But that knee took a good few weeks to remotely get back to normal. Also, the front side turn that I came off of was the one where I separated my shoulder, and that's only really started to get back to normal after a couple of months. To mitigate the risk, I've worked on my vert ramp bailing, and I've really practiced my knee slides. And I've worked on the knee slides so it's a sort of reactionary thing now, and even late on in a manoeuvre I can get onto my knees and bail and slide out safely. Okay, into the next section, and this is spine ramps. What could possibly go wrong? So with the bailing on the spine, I've found that the best strategy is to try and stay as low to the spine as possible, which is quite counterintuitive. Try and keep the knees bent so that if I do come a cropper, I can try and catch some of the transition and slide it out. It's the same on the vert ramp. I think the worst bails are when my knees are too straight and I'm out in the middle of nowhere. And basically, the more transition that I can catch, the more chance there is of it being an okay bail just by dissipating that energy. It becomes progressively more emotional the more sort of I hit on the flat bottom. And that's a theme we're going to check out in this next section, which is bailing onto the flat. Whenever I'm tinkering with a ledge, I'm always a little bit mindful that it could go wrong. And I find it's a surefire way to twist the old ankle. And my problem with ankle injuries is that they just take so long to rehabilitate. My last one took a good 6 to 7 months. And that one on the ledge, that was pretty emotional. It was only a sort of minor sprain, but it still took a good few months to get it anywhere back normal. So I think when I'm landing on the flat, the one thing I've noticed from looking at those clips is that my knees are super straight throughout the manoeuvre. And I think I'm doing that to try and keep myself away from danger. And it is a bit of a game of opposites, trying to accept that I need to get closer down, and that will be safer. Okay, in this next section, there's going to be some bales where I've been glad of wearing a helmet. So I've had a couple of nasty bangs at the head, but every time I bang my head, I'm happy of having the helmet. But I find I can bang my head in any circumstances at any point. And even on the mini ramp, I sort of launched forward there in a comedy fashion, managed to headbutt that fence post, and it won't come out on the video, but that fence post had a really sharp serrated edge, so even the lightest of touches would have ended up in a bit of claret coming out of the old head. Now I haven't got any hair, so some of those ones where I'm sliding back down the transition breakdancing, rubbing my head against the concrete, would also end in a nasty graze. So I'm glad of the helmet to slide across any bumpy or coarse surfaces. Okay, into the next section, and this is skating the deep end of the pool. That last one was a bale that I found quite effective for getting out of backside 50-50 grind attempts. Just sort of swinging around like a cat and then knee sliding back down. I find that on a tighter pool transition that I'm a little bit too tall to get down into the knee slide quick enough. And I'm out in the transition, and if I try and go to my knees, I'll end up landing too far down with too much pressure going through my thighs. Talking about thighs, the next section is all about hitting the thighs and the hips. Other skaters are always pretty kind. They always check if I'm okay because they can see I've gone flying. And it usually looks a lot worse than it is. I find that the bales that I really injure myself on, they always look pretty mellow. It's just sort of I've fallen a little bit awkwardly. I generally find if I go into it full power, like a rugby player, and really commit, it may look like I've really come off, but I usually end up coming out okay. And that leads us into this next section, which is quite a good demonstration of the concept of going as fast as possible and hopefully coming out okay. So with those over carves, they're pretty emotional and they look absolutely horrendous when the video camera is behind the transition because you can't see what's happening, you just sort of disappear out of view. But I find that as long as I'm going fast, if the board misses a coping, I can sort of either knee slide if I'm front side, and it usually comes out okay. The most emotional version is where it's a smaller transition, over carved, and then there's a chance to come out the top and sort of catch the knees, or worst of all, catch the shins. Okay, into this final section, which is not locking in properly. But yeah, I find that's a bit of a nasty one, and it's all because my front shoulder is not in line with the coping. I open that front shoulder out, don't pump quite hard enough, and the back wheel misses a coping. And because my shoulder's open, sort of go into a board slide, there's every chance that the front foot could slip into the nose, and then there's no way of getting off without landing on my arse in the transition. Okay, that's it for this video. Hopefully there's a thing or two in there that'll help you with your bailing. If there is, hit me up in the comments below and let me know what you found helpful. Also, I made a full video on all the protection gear that I use, and it's pretty much remained unchanged. I researched all of the stuff that I felt was the best for me. If you haven't had a chance to check out my guitar YouTube channel, then please do head over and hit that subscribe button. And if you're new to this channel, feel free to hit subscribe here as well. It just means you'll get notified every time I make a new video. So let me know how you get on with your bailing. Go safely, go steady, and I'll see you next time.